Hi, and welcome to the Saved, Healed, and Made Whole podcast, where holistic health really can be simple, affordable, and attainable for you and your family. I am your host, Kayla J. Esteban. I am a biblical naturopathic doctor at Sozo Holistic Healing, where I work with natural-minded moms to find healing in mind, body, and spirit. So go grab your favorite cup of herbal tea, take a deep, relaxing breath, and we'll get started. There are many clients that I have worked with in recovery from trauma and healing and removing trapped emotions, and it is not easy work. It is very humbling and very honoring to be invited into that experience. And it feels weird to say, like, I enjoy it. I'm not like excited by talking about other people's pain because that would be weird. But it is some of the most gratifying work that I get to do, and to see them come out of the experience on the other side is not like enjoyable, but it is very gratifying, I guess is a good word. And to hear someone say that they get panic attacks just walking outside their door when they first meet me, and then after sessions, they're now able to just go out peacefully and enjoy a walk around the block with their child without any issues. It's really nice to be able to celebrate with people, to hear those things. Or, somebody else told me they got autoimmune flare-ups every time their parent visits. And now after the sessions, they're able to really kind of develop at least more of a working relationship with the parent, as best as you can. And it just brings me a lot of joy to hear these positive results. And even if you haven't experienced such extreme reactions to trauma or to difficult things, most of us will have experienced some kind of trauma at some point. I know trauma is like a buzzword, so if you don't like the word trauma, if you just think of it as difficulties, struggles, pain, things like that, it could be something like parents' divorce. Divorce rates are so common. It could be your own divorce too. That's an equally painful experience. Being in a car accident is kind of a more short-term kind of minor trauma. Could be like, a difficult breakup or a partner cheating or just, something. It doesn't necessarily have to be like this horribly abusive childhood, even though, it could be. And I don't want to invalidate that or take anything away from what some people have experienced, because there are definitely plenty of painful childhood experiences, any kind of, physical, emotional, sexual, religious abuse, any kinds of things like that. And, or even just like medical difficulties, like becoming paralyzed, losing other kinds of functioning in your body, losing a loved one, especially at an early age, things like that. And so it's like it's impossible to get out of this life without experiencing difficulties. And that's kind of the nice thing. We get to commiserate with each other and not feel so alone when we realize that there are other people out there who have experienced similar pains to us. And it's easy to ask ourselves, or to kind of challenge this question of like, why would God allow X, Y, and Z thing to happen to me? And it's a very fair question to ask. I think sometimes we want our lives to be as pain-free as possible, understandably. So when difficult things come up, it's so easy to ask ourselves, like, God, why would God allow this in my life? Or if you see it in somebody else's life, maybe you're like, God, they're a really good person. Like, they've never done anything to hurt anybody. Why would you allow that to happen to somebody? Or to me, like, this happened to me when I was a kid and I never did anything to deserve it, right? And so to ask these questions is completely valid and completely understandable. And it's a question that people have been asking themselves probably since just about the beginning of time. And there's been whole books that have been written trying to answer it. So I am not going to try to give one solid, complete answer in this episode, but I will do my best to at least talk about some of the things coming up around this issue. And I wanted to share this verse. It is 2 Corinthians chapter 1, 3 through 5. And it says, "Praise be to God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. For just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. So like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I do know this, and I have seen it in my own life and also in the lives of other people around me, where it says, for just as we share abundantly in the sufferings of Christ, so also our comfort abounds through Christ. So no matter what we experience now or have experienced in the past, God provides us with the comfort we need to heal if, and this is a big if we're open to recognizing and receiving it. So how do we get comforted by God? It can be different at different times. For me, sometimes it looks like a loved one coming up to comfort me without me even needing to ask. Sometimes somebody might do something nice for me. They might bring me some food out of nowhere, or give me a compliment or something like that. One time my husband saw something random on Instagram that just prompted him to tell me how hard I was working at home as a mom, and it was just a really nice thing. Or just other kinds of unexpected blessings and generosity from other people. Or even if I'm all alone, sometimes I just feel kind of like an unseen warmth or presence or something around me. I remember this one time I was deep in depression, and I was sitting outside by myself at night crying, violins playing, and there's something about the stars shining, and I remember there was this warm little breeze blowing, and I just didn't feel alone anymore, which is kind of hard to explain, and hopefully it makes sense, but it was nice. And the biggest consolation for me with this verse is the verse that says, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God. And that is why my logo for Sozo Holistic Healing, if you haven't seen it yet, you might see it on this podcast video in the background of that little purple picture, is a dandelion. And I have dandelions all over my website and graphics and things like that. And the reason why I love dandelions is because a dandelion needs to die before its seeds can spread to plant new flowers. And I just love that kind of image. And for me, all of the struggles and the health issues and the suffering that I've experienced in my life, the parts of me that I felt like went through kind of like a death, a little death, or at least a struggle, a dying to myself, or things like that, allowed me to learn how to help others find healing. And using the techniques that God showed me to help with my healing gave me really firsthand knowledge, and also just kind of sealed it in my memory, so that when somebody else in my practice would come to me with a certain issue, I'd be like, oh yeah, I totally know what to do for that, because I did this exact same thing for myself, and I remember it so well because I went through it, and I'm able to empathize so much better because I personally went through it. So for me, I have dealt with so many things, the list goes on, but the bigger things was a lot of gut health issues, food sensitivities, thyroid and autoimmune issues, PCOS, irregular and painful periods, headaches and migraines, ADD, joint pain, back spasms, depression, anxiety, mood disorder, breastfeeding issues when I became a mom. Those are just the big things, but there's probably little things in between there. And every once in a while, God will allow something to happen to me or one of my kids. It's very interesting. Certain things will just pop out of nowhere, and it's usually something that I've never experienced before, a certain kind of health issue. And it will just give me this opportunity to personally experience dealing with that issue. Because, it's one thing to study it in a book, or to watch a video, or to take a course on something and get certified. And it's a whole nother thing to experience it when it's your body that feels the pain, or when it's your kid that's going through this thing. And it gives me a lot of empathy for what parents are feeling when they bring me their kids, or just for what this person is feeling when they come to me for a session. And every health issue that I experienced was kind of traumatic in itself. And I would sometimes find myself asking God in that moment, why is this happening? Like, this is so painful. This is so difficult. Like, I take care of especially now, especially when health issues come up now, I'm like, God, like, I take such good care of my family and myself. Like, why are we still experiencing health issues? Like, sometimes there's a part of my brain that thinks, like, just because I've committed to a more holistic lifestyle, I should just be immune from anything new popping up. And that's just not the case. And so sometimes when this pops up, I just have to sit with it, and I have to talk with God about it. And the more that I've realized that these health issues, they're rooted in past traumas, things that I experienced before I changed my lifestyle. And there's trapped emotions that my body's still holding on to, even with my kids. Like, kids don't come into the world in a blank slate. There's inherited trapped emotions, there's generational things, spiritual things that come down through generations. So, they've got their own stuff that's just, we're never going to be perfect, and we're never going to be immune to things coming up. And the process of addressing that trauma and using the same techniques on myself that I also use in sessions with other people, things that I will put in the show notes if you want to check out the Revive link. It will give a lot more details on. So all of these techniques that I use, not only have I, been educated on them and certified in them, but they're also things that I use for my own self and for my own family. My personal philosophy is I would never do something to somebody else that I don't consider safe enough to do to my own children. So everything is something that I have put a lot of time and practice and kind of used my own family and my own self as sort of like guinea pigs to make sure that it is something that I really stand by and are willing to promote to somebody else. And so if you would like to check out any of that other information, you can always see the link below. There is also if you are not quite ready for a one-to-one session, or if you are and you just want to kind of like get as much support as you can possibly get, there is also a trauma recovery support workshop that you can find in the link in the show notes. And this is an hour-long workshop that is full, like literally full of strategies. I don't do fluff in workshops. I don't do like sales pitches. I'll recommend something if there's like a personal, like with my Revive consultations, if there's something that I'm really not able to do outside of a one-to-one session, then I'll share that. But it's not a sales pitch. It's really just things that you can do that are either free or like DIY, very budget friendly things that you can do at home that is beyond therapy. I'm not knocking on therapy. It's a great strategy or resource, but to me, it's not the end all and be all. There's so many other things that you can do to be supporting your body physically, to be improving your emotions, to increase the effectiveness and the speed of the healing. And just to give one example of how trauma needs physical support is because our key nutrients in the body get depleted through trauma and through stress, and these are the same nutrients that help us manage stress in the future. And so it really creates this vicious cycle of like trauma and stress, and that depletes us in those nutrients. So we're less able to manage things in the future and that creates more anxiety and more depression. And that leads to probably creating more trauma and or at least the perception of trauma. If you're not able to manage stress, then daily life becomes very, very stressful and hard to manage. And so that creates more stress and more depletion and just round and round again. And so knowing what you can do to target that nutrient depletion, what is specifically necessary, and really like the most easy and practical ways to kind of reuptake those nutrients can be very, very helpful. So that's one thing that I include in that workshop. There's other things like, positive mindset strategies and regulating our nervous system. And this is one thing that I would really say is vital for anyone looking to heal from past trauma, even though trauma, a lot of times it's in our minds now. and like the PTSD or CPTSD, there really is like a physical support and a physical root behind it that really needs to be addressed, because I don't believe our mind can be separated from our body. I believe our mind and body and spirit really is all interconnected and needs to be supported in the same way. So there's a lot of other things. Like I said, the workshop is packed full. It's all a lot of very simple, clear, manageable things that anyone can do, and a lot of them are DIY or free or just really readily available. And so you can check that out at the link below. You can always send me a message if you have any questions about anything. If you're ready to book your first one-to-one session, you can always reach out to me. And at the end of the day, though, I do just especially pray that you feel the love and comfort from God as you heal, because that really is the most important thing. And I hope that this verse from 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verses 3 to 5 is a comfort for you as well, because we are not in isolation. We are all here to support each other and be with each other and to help each other heal. So thank you very much for joining me and for listening today, and have a very blessed day.